This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is up on Center Stage, the show about the arts and the artists behind their work. The French jazz violinist Stéphane Grappelli had this to say of music making: "Music is the divine way to tell beautiful poetic things to the heart." Well, I have had the honor of knowing many outstanding violinists in my time. I have known many who have spoken directly to the heart. But recently I encountered another violinist who literally sings and communicates poetic messages to the heart with his playing. But I discovered him not on the stage, but rather through a movie in which he starred. Daniel Garlitsky is a Moscow-born violinist who is third generation to a family steeped in classical music lore. His grandfather, Mikhail Garlitsky, started the step-by-step teaching of violin in Moscow. His father, Boris Garlitsky, is a dynamic violinist and recording artist who has served as concertmaster of the Moscow Virtuosi Players and then the London Philharmonic. Now Daniel has taken the family legacy and turned it to a new direction outside of his critically acclaimed classical performances, masterclasses, and his teaching in Paris. He wears many hats, and they include that of composer, conductor, arranger, educator, film scorer, actor, singer, and jazz violinist. In fact, Daniel is bringing his classical mastery and improvisatory skills as a jazz violinist to jazz clubs in France and around the world. He is indeed walking in the light of Stéphane Grappelli. But more than that, he has just lent his charm and music making to the role of Peter Nicollescu in the successful French film directed by Gregory Magna, Les Musiciens. I am thrilled to have Daniel Garlitsky with me today on Center Stage. Welcome, Daniel. This is indeed an honor.
Thank you, Pamela. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. I'm honored. Thanks for having me.
Of course. It's my pleasure. You deserve it. And you deserve many accolades after this brilliant film role. But first, tell me where you are right now in the world.
I'm in actually not very far from you. I'm in New York City, in the Columbus Circle area, where I'm in the middle of a tour. So I have a couple of days off now just to explore the New York jazz scene, which I love.
Of course, who doesn't? I mean, this is thrilling. Where are you performing in New York?
I am performing at the Café Wa on Sunday, the 15th of February. And before that, we're going on tour to Orlando and Gainesville in Florida, and San Francisco and California.
Beautiful. You'll have a little sunshine before you go in some warmth rather than, having your face ripped off in the wind in New York City. I mean, really, this has been more than we can bear, literally. Okay, I need to know, Daniel Borisovich Garlitsky, how does a nice guy from Russia end up in France?
Well, my father mentioned was working with the Moscow Virtuosi in the late 80s, from actually the creation of the orchestra in the 70s to the late 80s, where he decided that he wanted to change his artistic scenery. And we ended up in France by chance, I would say. He actually found a job as a concertmaster of Lyon Orchestra in the early 90s, where he stayed for 10 years. Then he got a teaching position at the Conservatory Lyon, then in Paris. We're not looking into France particularly. We wanted to set up in Europe somewhere. We were not sure, and it just happened.
It just happened. What a way to go, I'm telling you. I mean, beautiful food, beautiful art. You're surrounded by it all.
Absolutely.
And you're still there. You're still resident in Paris, I believe.
I'm resident in Paris. Yeah, I moved there in the year 2000 to study the violin at the Paris Conservatory. Then I started playing, and I actually taught there for a while in the 2010s. I've been based in Paris for 25 years, 26 years.
Lovely. I usually have an opening question to all my guests as artists, and that's, how did music come to you? But that's a redundant question with you. I mean,
Yes.
look at how you grew up in this family of real titans in the string world. I mean, what was that really like, Daniel? I mean, there must have been certain pressures with that too.
I mean, it was only natural that I to music because for me growing up as a kid and
Hmm.
listening to concert and witnessing rehearsals at home, for me it was a natural thing, and I thought until uh, quite an advanced age that everyone was supposed to play music, that it was just the way to go, because it was really surrounding me
Hmm.
from morning till the evening. Um, so yeah, I requested the violin at the age 6 for Christmas. I think my parents asked me, "What do you want for Christmas?" I said a violin, just because
Just
I was the
because.
only one in the family who didn't have an instrument at that place. So
And
yeah,
did you have other siblings who also went into music?
I'm an only child.
Oh, you
Yeah,
are the special one.
yeah,
Okay, you're the love child, Daniel. I love that.
that's what they say.
So it must have been extraordinary having all these musicians, you've got this in your ear from an early age. Did you just pick up the violin and were you a natural?
I was never a natural, nor was I a wunderkind. It was just practicing and step by step getting
Literally?
better and better in it. Yes. But no, I was never particularly great talent. It's mostly work.
I wish all musicians would speak like that because it really is about the work, isn't it?
It's a lot about the work. I mean, we could have a certain predisposition to it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Mm-hmm.
think I was too bad at it to start with, but nor was I an extreme talent. So I was somewhere in between, and my luck was that I was surrounded by it all day long. So I had people to look up to.
Who was your greatest mentor along the way?
Oh, my father, of course.
Yeah,
I
okay.
mean, I started the violin with him, and he accompanied me until I ended the Paris Conservatory. So yeah, he was always there for me, and
Mm-hmm.
great advice, and um, it was kind of the barometer for me, for it. I had to uphold a certain level, and he was that level.
Right, right. But it sounds like he was a good guy. Like
Oh
there
yeah,
was a beautiful sense of
he's still a
balance.
good guy.
But you just never know, do you, Daniel, about being like the son of a great musician? I mean, I was the daughter of a great singer. I mean, it's a different kind of fold, you go into.
It's true. I have this question quite a lot, but I don't really know how to answer it because it's my life. I lack the
Yeah.
element of comparison. So yes, my father was my father, and he was my teacher as well. But it was only normal for me. So
It
we
sounds,
develop the relationship based on these facts.
it's equitable. I like that.
Yeah.
I love that. So you studied with your father, then
Hmm.
you studied also in France. You really had
Hmm.
stuck your feet down in the soil of France, and
Yeah.
you are an educator yourself, and you seem to have, even before I met you online
Hmm.
here, I was imagining that you were a very soulful and humble man. And I can see that clearly now. I mean, and I think that probably behooves you as an educator, which I think you're very fond of. You love your teaching.
Well, I do think it is important. The act of transmission is important,
Hmm.
and I do teach. I used to have a position at the Paris Conservatory. I don't have this position anymore, but I still am very active with private students and also master classes all over the world, actually.
Hmm. Hmm.
Mostly in jazz now, which is really much more of an oral tradition than the written tradition. So it's very important to be face to face with the student or with students. to I think it's really the only way. We've all we remember the plague. Do you remember the plague?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
Mm. It became the norm to teach online,
Yeah.
even to perform online, uh, and it was very dangerous because people started liking it without seeing the
Yes.
limitations it has. And I'm very happy that we can again perform
We're back.
for live audiences and also teach face to face in the same room.
I am too. I've got to tell you,
Mm,
I've got to be honest. It's taken a while for it to come back in America. I mean,
yeah.
clearly come back. I think it bounced back faster in Europe, where you cannot take the artistic love out of people. In America, I think they got cozy on their sofa, and
Wow.
you know, and it's interesting because during COVID, during the plague, when the music stopped here, and our live concerts, I talked to so many musicians who it actually ignited because they were actually doing more recording. They were pushing themselves so they wouldn't just sit back on their laurels, you know? It's an interesting time. It was tragic, but also it was a double-edged sword. You know, I think it lit a spark in some to keep going,
Oh yeah.
whether online or not.
It's true. I was lucky enough to have some arranging and composing work during this time. Also, I avoided the first lockdown because it was in Asia at the time, and I decided to stay in Asia because
You did.
yeah, they were. I was in Taiwan actually, and Taiwan was very well prepared for this situation because they had this in the beginning of 2000s. So they locked the
Yeah.
country immediately, and they had a very low infection rate for the COVID. So they stayed open. So I did stay there teaching and also recording. But for lots of my colleagues, it was not the case. It was quite depressing
Yeah,
not
I
being
know.
able to
I know.
do what we're supposed to do.
That's
Yeah.
extraordinary.
So I was very lucky.
Is Lucky your middle name?
Not really, but but sometimes when the stars are aligned.
I love this. I'm just trying to pull back the layers of the onion to find out who you really are, Daniel.
Mm. Well,
And we caught a glimpse, I think, of who you really are in this wonderful film directed by Gregory Magna, Les Musiciens.
mm,
And I had the great fortune of introducing this film at one point. It's quite a beautiful feature, I have to say, about four musicians who do not know each other. Thrown, well, you do, you have some reckoning with each other, but as players, you're thrown together as a quartet to perform this extraordinary contemporary piece to be broadcast worldwide by a woman who really wants to just fulfill, the dream of her father. I mean,
mm.
there are so many things and so many dynamics being touched on in this film. And you were cast as Peter Nicollescu as the blind violinist. And but more than that, you seem to have been the peacemaker in this film. Am I right?
Um, my character is on the quiet side, and it allows him to uh, kind of oiling all these little parts together. And it's true that funny, I never thought of him as a peacemaker, but I guess you're right. He is really. He is
I think
for mediation.
I think you are the calm in the group. I mean, you are the real calm, and perhaps we're projecting that because you are blind in the movie, or at
Yeah.
least legally so.
Hmm.
And it gives us a sense of you are the one person who's totally grounded more than the rest.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, we have all the characters and all these wonderful comedic elements to work out. As I said in my Q&A after we saw the film here, I didn't regard this as a comedy as much as I regarded it as really a bittersweet look into a musician's world.
I think in French there is this. I don't think there is a direct translation in English for comédie dramatique, which
Ah,
is I don't even know, a drama comedy. I mean, it combines both comedic elements and
Yes.
very serious. And this is how this film is definitely a comédie dramatique. Um, it, I think life is a mixture of bittersweet and Gregory Mann, the director,
Yeah.
um, he somehow made it very life-like
Yes.
comedy. So yeah, I mean everything could happen in real life. Everything
Mm-hmm.
you see on screen could happen or could have happened.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe not in the span of 1 hour and a half or 1 hour 40 minutes, but if you take
Right.
each separate element, yeah, it works. Maybe that's why this film is so touching
It
because
is.
everything works.
It's
Mm.
very, very, very touching. How did this role come to you?
It's actually a funny story. I received a phone call from Grégoire Hetzel, composer of
Yes.
the score that I knew from before. I didn't know him that well. We're not close. We became much closer after the movie. And he told me, I have this friend who's looking for a musician who's also an actor and who has a very thick accent in French. Um, and I told him, okay, let's take again step by step. Musician, check. Actor, I don't know. I've never acted, but I guess I could try. I could do an audition. If they like it, they like it. If they don't, well. But I've been in France since the age of 9. I do not really have an accent. And as I
Huh.
was speaking to him, he realized that it was true. And he said, "Oh, all right. Well, you know what? He's gonna call him. He's gonna call you. Talk to him with an accent." So for 3 months, I talked to Gregory with a very thick Russian accent until the point where I thought to myself, when do I actually tell him that that's all a lie? I was a little bit afraid that he might take it badly, but he didn't. Actually, the one who sold me out was again Gregoire, the composer. He came to one of our rehearsal and he told me, "Oh yeah, that's great. What you're doing with the accent." And the Gregory was there and said, "What?" I said, "Well, I don't really have one, but I think uh, since it lasted for 3 months, he still could hear a little bit of an accent." And he said, "No, no, just don't do anything on purpose. I can hear it. I'm happy with your natural voice."
That's
So that's how it
fantastic.
happened.
That's fantastic. You could have fooled me. I would have reckoned that you have had some acting in your background. It came very natural to you to portray this beautiful character. But I have to say, I was totally mesmerized by you, probably more than anyone else other than the composer. This wonderful French actor, this Pierrot,
Mhm.
Frederic Pierrot. What a wonderful actor!
He is so very generous, I must say. He does everything not only to appear himself as a great actor, but to make all the actors around him appear great as well. There's this
Wonderful.
scene at the end of the movie where just before the concert, he comes to the quartet a little bit like a football coach, and
Yeah,
he tells them, just forget about everything and just have fun, play music. You're doing great. And the way we shot the scene, there was the camera on him, and then there was the camera on our reaction. And he was not supposed to really play it. He could have just faked it because the camera wouldn't see him, but he gave it again 120% so we could see him and react to him. And this is, I mean, this is so very generous of him. I
totally.
love him so much.
Totally.
Mm.
Now, from what I understand, all of you musicians were actual string players.
Yes,
Some,
absolutely.
a few of you better than the rest, but we did not have to have that terrible mimicking of an actor just trying to play a cello or a viola or a violin. And then you had this spectacular editing. by Miss Herminier, I think, who really knitted all this together in crossing these shots. I mean, it was really, really effective. It defies any musician watching it to see any quick edits, really.
It's always a drag for us as
Hmm.
musicians to see. There's this movie called The Late Quartet. Maybe you have seen it,
Yes. Hmm.
with Christopher Walken playing the cello, and Philip Seymour Hoffman playing second violin. And it just doesn't, I mean, I
Mm-mm.
guess for the majority of people, it's okay, but for us string players, it's really such a drag. And when we discussed before the shooting with Gregory, I was supposed to help with it being realistic, and I asked him what is the level of realism that you would like to have, and he told me quasi documentary,
Okay.
and I was happy with it. Uh, because I knew at that moment that it's a movie I will probably not be ashamed of.
Hmm.
We were
Indeed.
on this on the same we were on the same page when it came to the musical part.
Yeah, indeed. And I
Mhm.
have to say, the composer, this Gregory Hetzel, the music is gorgeous.
Yes,
It's the minimalism, the beauty. I mean, he's a kind of Max Richter kind of guy, isn't he? I mean,
a,
it's
a little
quite
bit.
beautiful. And
Hmm.
then in the story, of course, the composer, who is so irascible and seems to be reclusive. I mean, he wrote this music years ago. He doesn't really want to be bothered with it, but he has an awakening, and it led me to believe that this film is really about a series of awakenings for all of you. You with your relationship with the cellist, Matthew Spinozzi, who plays the first violin, who is so ridiculously ego driven, but yet comes around to the violist, who is an internet sensation. I mean, there are a lot of levels of actual dynamics going on here that we experience as musicians in real life. Do you think that was more of an accident by the Gregory Mania, or did he really design that?
Uh, it was what comes out of Gregory is rarely an accident.
Hmm.
The overall plot of the movie changed drastically from the first script,
Oh.
but everything concerning this quartet and the musicians was there from the beginning. He Gregory lived right across the street from the Paris Conservatory many years ago, and as a neighbor,
Ah.
he had a cellist, but it was maybe 20 years ago, at least 20 years ago, and that's when he started developing this idea about this quartet. So he had 20 years to document himself about the world of classical music, etc., and the instruments. This was not an accident, but the composer came late. Actually, the role of the composer. It was written for this actor, for Frédéric Pierrot, to begin with, but he was not supposed to be the composer at all. In the beginning, he was supposed to
Ah.
be um, uh, military mediator, the guy you call in a hostage situation in
Oh.
order to talk everybody out of a dramatic situation. So that was
Ah. Okay. Okay.
the first character of Frederic was written like this, and so it would have been a burlesque comedy, probably.
Oh, I'm so
Uh,
glad that was changed because
uh,
actually he is the granddaddy of you all
oh,
in the
yes.
role of the composer. It was.
Absolutely. He was the one who said, it's great, but I don't really believe that they would call a military guy. He's maybe the
No.
one who suggested that it would be the composer. And we're all glad it happened this way.
No, it was quite
Mhm.
beautifully done, I have to say. And his wonderful phrase when he really awakened to the beauty of his piece through your playing,
Mhm.
when he said, I write music so I don't have to deal with words.
Yeah.
And when all of you were trying to analyze, and he complains about players always analyzing. It's so true. I say that about my singers all the time. we want to get to the heart of the matter, which is music is telling the story and it's on its own.
Hmm.
And it was very, very, very powerful, I have to say. Were there any big issues during the filming? I mean, were there any dramatics?
No, I have to say, and
Really?
everybody was quite shocked by it because when you're stuck with the same people for 6 weeks in the same
Yeah.
place, because most of it took place in this big house where they rehearse. The church part was the last week of the shooting. We did quite fast, but there was 5 weeks in this house, seeing the same faces, working a lot, like starting very early and pushing throughout the day until the night falls. There was always somebody to diffuse the atmosphere if we could feel that people were tired and
Mm-hmm.
being a little
Mm-hmm.
bit emotional. It was such a wonderful crew, and when
Wow.
I talked to the people who are used to working in these conditions, they all agreed that it's very rare that shooting has no drama whatsoever.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
everyone was shocked in a good way, in a positive way, because I mean, it's so great to go to work in a good mood every day.
Well, actually, yes,
Uh,
because you're all trapped there in
yeah.
situ. There's always going to be some sort of explosion, just as
Mm.
there was in the film story. And I want to talk about that scene because when things really get to a pitch and you lose power and you're all sitting around drinking wine, how does it
Hmm.
get any better? And you start singing a folk song.
Yeah.
Can you tell me about the evolution of that scene? It's done so beautifully.
Well, this is actually the only scene where you can hear the music performed live, and it was very challenging to do the scene because uh, actors who are not really musicians, not really professional musicians, and supposed to play and act and sing at the same time, and
Yeah.
we didn't have that much time to do it. It was the last scene of the day,
Hmm.
um, and we didn't have all the time in the world to do it, and uh, we decided to do it live, which was not my original um, idea. Was to have always a backup plan to have the music
Mm.
pre-recorded, um,
Hmm.
just in case it doesn't work, we still have something to rely on. And the sound engineers of the movie, there were two, Nicolas Quentin, and I don't remember the name of the other one. Never mind. They worked on this movie 20 years ago called Les Choristes, who was a big success about a choir in a
Hmm.
school um, during uh, I think right after World War II, in the 50s, perhaps.
Okay. Okay.
Anyway, so it was a huge success. So they knew how to deal with music on screen. And they told me, no, come on, let's do it live. You can do it. It's
Yeah.
easier for us to do it because we have the acoustics of this room. So I said, okay, let's try it. And it worked. It just worked. I arranged the piece, taking into consideration the musical level of every individual,
Hmm.
and we rehearsed it a lot prior to shooting it. And then we did, I don't know, 5 or 6 takes, and it was enough for it to appear great on screen.
It's fantastic.
It's just something in the realm of a miracle. Really, it's a lot. It's a lot of challenges to overcome
Yeah. Oh, I
during this
know.
only scene. Yeah.
It's a huge risk, doing
Yes,
this
it is.
live. I mean, it's a huge risk. So, who chose the music? Now, this was based on My Girl, right? Which
Yes.
has been recorded actually by rock stars. I mean,
Oh, Nirvana. It's a
mhm.
trad song called "In the Pines," which has 75 sets of different lyrics written over time.
Yeah.
But I think it's mid 19th century. Uh, Gregory sent me a recording of James Bond. No, what James Bond? You know, can you remind me the name of this? I have told you before. I have James
Yes.
Blunt, but it's not James Blunt.
No, it's not.
No, no.
Oh, the great orchestrator of folk
The
songs. He
a
has
folk
quite a
song, yeah.
catalog of folk songs. I'll think of it in a minute. I don't have it written down either.
Absolutely. So he sent me a video recording of this guy playing and singing at the same time. He played a five-string fiddle,
Hmm.
um,
That's right.
tuned in a bizarre way. Um, and I knew that this was one of the things that Gregory really wanted, so I didn't have much room to wiggle with.
Hmm.
Uh, Gregory is a guy who is very open to discussion and to arranging a scene in a certain way,
Hmm.
but sometimes he has a very precise idea of what he wants and he pushes towards this idea. It was the case for this song. So he wanted this song and more or less in the same aesthetic as the recording he sent me. So I started working on it. I knew that I would have the main part on the violin because it was easier for me to
Hmm.
realize it
Hmm.
on camera. And I started just to recording things and sending him, and he was like, "Yeah, yeah, that's what I want." So once my part was written, I had to arrange all the parts, the other parts around. So it took some time. Then it took a lot of rehearsals for us to uh, be able to perform it live,
To make it sound natural.
to make it sound natural.
And
Absolutely.
you with your very profound American accent, by the way,
I've been singing for as long as I can remember, and mostly in English, more in English than in
mostly in
Russian.
English. Isn't that
Yeah.
interesting?
Excuse me.
Isn't that interesting? Well, it was a fantastic moment. It diffused the entire situation and laid the ground for the rest of the film to evolve in such a beautiful way with this wonderful concert at the end, which is the crowning glory. And
Mm.
the movie leaves us with that, actually, this wonderful music of Gregor Hetzel. It's just amazing, I have to say. Would you do this again, Daniel? Would you be keen to be an actor again in film?
Would do it tomorrow if I had the occasion. No, it was a really great experience for me, and I'm not against it. Quite the contrary, I have to say. I
Wow.
will not abandon music,
No,
but
not at all. Not at
but
all.
I'm very happy to play another part in another movie if I have the occasion, for sure.
I'm sure it will come to you somehow. And I have to mention to our listeners that you have, before this time, before doing the film, you've actually coached non
Yeah,
musicians to look like they're playing the violin.
yeah, it happened. I mean, it's sometimes quite successful nowadays because you can use CGI
Yeah.
to paste the hand of violinist on top of the hand of the actor. And I'm thinking about the movie Le Concert, Mihailiano. It's, I think, 15 years old, and there's this famous French actress, Mélanie Laurent, playing Tchaikovsky concerto on the violin, and she's dubbed by many different violinists on screen and off screen.
Isn't that
But
interesting?
it looks great. I guess it's easier now than it was before to appear as a real musician on screen.
Oh, I think so. I think so
Mm,
with all the magic we've got. But having said that, Cary Grant sat down behind a harp in The Bishop's Wife and looked very much
absolutely,
like he was playing. I mean,
that's
you know,
true.
and that's going way back. So there are ways, but yes, it does get a little bit uncomfortable for musicians watching non-musicians play. I think in the case of the quartet you were talking about with the Philip Seymour Hoffman, Christopher Walken,
Hmm.
there's an engagement with a real musician with their instrument that's different. And I know when the camera spent a lot of time on your face, actually from a certain angle I noticed,
Hmm.
where the violin sits under your chin, and I really felt that the director was really really depending on your relationship to the violin, that you were the standout performer. And there's that sense of marriage between you and your instrument that is so real, and the breathing that goes with it, and the very subtle gestures.
It's true. It's not something that we work on as a musician. It's something that just comes naturally.
Yes.
And it's kind of difficult to understand for actors
Yeah.
slash directors because it's something that you would definitely work on as a stage actor, for example. You would the breathing and the facial expression is really part of your line of work. Whereas for musicians, I don't really think we will look into it that much and that often.
Yeah.
Some of us do, but most of us is just a natural way of behaving. But we're so concentrating on what's going on here or whatever our instrument is that we don't have time to analyze our facial expressions. Uh, so yeah, I don't think the camera was on me more than the other ones. I mean, Mathieu is someone who the first violin, Mathieu
Yes.
Spinozzi, the character of Georges. He still performs regularly on the violin.
That's fantastic.
Um, Marie is mostly a stage actor,
Mm-hmm.
um, but she learned cello as a kid, and
Mm-hmm.
she keeps playing it as an amateur. She also plays a little bit of violin, and her
Mm,
daughter plays the violin.
it's wonderful.
Um, and for me, she appears very natural on
Yes.
camera, and
Yes.
also there are many passages where the camera is focused on her. So
Mm-hmm.
there's no moment in the movie where I would think, no, she's not. It's not her. It really appears as she's doing all that she does.
And actually, the movie sets her up well when she conducts that master
Ah,
class in the beginning, and I thought that was really marvelous. It was
mm-hmm,
so actual. I want to talk about this whole internet success business
mm-hmm.
of musicians. You touch upon this in the film, and it's so important. And it's true. We, as traditional classical musicians who have had to fight and pay all this money to go through school and spend hours and hours of disciplined study, and then suddenly here comes somebody who has taken a few lessons on TikTok, and they're a sensation, and suddenly, they're being presented in the most incredible fashion. And we see this every day. I try not to let this take away from what I do, of course, but it really brings up an interesting point about the resentment that does happen between classical musicians and those who have not come up the traditional ranks. I thought that was a really interesting dynamic in the film.
It is true. Uh, I would say that for the past few years, the situation is evolving because serious musicians are now starting to look into social media
Mm-hmm.
and all of these reels. It was because it was the lack of interest
Yeah,
from professional musicians. I mean, we are very busy doing what we do,
that's right.
and this Instagram thing is very time consuming,
Yes, it
and
is.
also it's kind of rewarding in the way that it can take a big part of our life
Yeah,
doing this, and this time we spend doing this, we don't spend doing something more productive for us, like practicing our instruments, for example.
for example.
uh,
Hmm.
but now I mean, I know a few great musicians that post interesting stuff. And I encourage more and more serious musicians to do this because it also will uplift the standards, I would say, of what
Of
we
course.
see and what we hear on the internet. Because I don't think that um, the audience is dumb. I don't think any audience is dumb, but we're just dealing with what we're presented
Yeah,
with
yeah.
as audience. So it's also our mission as artists to present something worthwhile.
Well, and the same is, if you look at it, traditional artists who are doing crossover, and
Mhm.
one could say you going into your jazz world, I mean, you're living, two different existences, and both are really legit. And
Absolutely.
I think that the fame the violist experienced in the film was totally legit. It was really interesting how that they came around in the end, and you came around to really understand her situation. I have to say though, Daniel, I don't think honestly that you guys would be out hiking on the day before such a important performance. I would like to think that a blind man would not be tempting himself to fall down. And of course, in the case of the first violinist, he does indeed. I mean, I can't imagine dealing with that. But
Well,
I'm
you'd be surprised. I remember playing tennis with Augustin Dumay a few hours before he played, I think, Mozart concerto, and he was doing fine. And also, I don't think tennis is a particularly good sport 3 hours before going on stage and playing.
right,
So, I mean, why not? At
right.
the end of the day, a movie doesn't have to be only the depiction of reality. It's also a fairy
That's right.
tale.
It's still a movie. It's still a movie. It will look
It's still a movie, and
marvelous.
how was he supposed to break his leg if not by hiking? Because it had to serve the scenario.
He needed to find the real humility through the
Yes.
body. It was interesting. Well, I encourage everyone to see Les Musiciens. It's a beautifully framed film. Wonderful. But Daniel Garlitsky, let's talk about you and jazz. I mean, how did you become seduced into this world?
I was always big on jazz. I was always a big fan. I mean, I had CDs and old vinyls of Oscar Peterson
Mm,
when we were still in Russia. I remember on my answering machine. Um, for the younger audiences, an answering machine was connected to our landline and took messages where we were away. Now we don't use those anymore, but I had the Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli as
okay.
a welcoming tune on my answering machine in the late 90s. But I never even considered uh, playing it professionally. I mean, I was a listener, but never a performer.
Okay.
And it happened through encounters. I mean, I met this guitar player with whom we now are um, part of the revival of the Quintet of the Hot Club de France, which is the original name of Django Reinhardt and Stefan Grappelli group in the
Okay.
30s.
Hmm.
And when we met randomly in Paris, we became friends, and he told me you should come and jam with us. And I did, and it was a disaster, and it took many more disasters. Yeah, but because his approach was, you're a wonderful violinist, you play, your tone is wonderful. Why can't you play? And it's exactly the same as if somebody came to me and say, your voice is so nice. Why don't you speak Chinese with me? Uh, just because I do not know the vocabulary and the language. So
Right.
what I needed to do is to learn the vocabulary. And it took some patience and some hard work because at the end of the day, it's like anything you do, it's the amount of hours spent in certain tasks that will eventually make you better at it. But the primary thing was that I wanted to be able to talk this language, to exchange ideas musically with him, because I found that his playing was very refined, and it encouraged me to learn this style
The,
of
the,
music because I
yeah.
liked it, but I could not speak it. So that's how
But
it happened.
but as an arranger, you must have found some sort of structure, within that world, that helped you.
Of course, I mean it's we speak of when we don't know improvisation, we don't understand it, and we think that it's something really coming out of
Nowhere.
of nowhere. It's
Yeah.
absolutely not the case. It's very, very structured, and
Hmm.
You learn the songs and the structure of these songs, which is um, quite similar. If you look at the repertoire from the 30s and 40s, it's usually 32 bars, and the structure is AABA or ABAC.
Yeah.
But this is one thing. The other thing is, okay, you know, is what do you do on 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 top of this to make it interesting and nice? And that's when I started learning what Grappelli did, for example, because this was
Hmm.
my prime source of inspiration was young Grappelli. In his period was Django, but also people like Joe Venuti
Hmm.
uh, or Staff Smith. And the more you listen, the more you analyze this kind of language, because I really treat it as as a language. The more
Hmm.
you start understanding it and
Interesting.
you start understanding what they do on these or these chord progressions, and you're like, ah, this is reminiscent of this, okay, and then it's kind of a puzzle that comes together in the end. But it takes time. It's not 12 hours a day during the week. It's more 1 hour a day during a long period of time.
Wow.
That's the way it worked for me, at least.
How long did it take you before you felt really comfortable, or where you felt the magic could happen, without thinking about it?
uh, I was a recluse for 3 months, not going out, but trying to learn this vocabulary, and 3 months without having to learn the instrument as well, because the instrument I've already played. So it was
Hmm.
just the
Hmm.
style. Then I was confident in going out and trying it uh, with other musicians, as we call jam sessions, because this is another part of the journey as a jazz musician. It's good if you practice at home, but you have to get out there and try it and understand how it's done, because it's a dialogue always.
Yeah,
You can prepare everything at home and play the same solo over and over again, but this is not what this music is about.
that's right. You have
It's
to be
it's
in
it's
sync with your partners.
yeah, and you have to act and react to what's happening. So after 3 months, I was confident that my disasters on during these jam sessions will be worthwhile and would make me a better musician. Before that, there's no progress. The first step is to start learning the language, and then you go out there and then you get better.
Yeah,
Um, the more you do it, the more comfortable you get, I guess.
that's
But still,
fantastic.
there are some things I'm really not comfortable with, but that it gives me a purpose and something to look to.
So, do you look at yourself now predominantly as a jazz musician?
I would say so, because that's what takes the most of my time.
Yeah. Hmm.
So yeah, I would say that I'm mostly a
And
jazz
you're
musician.
no longer teaching at the Paris Conservatoire, and
That was also what allowed me to learn jazz. It's because I actually quit all my positions that allowed me to be very comfortable, but somehow lazy as an artist, not going any further. So I had
right.
time, uh, and the money was going less and less. So it's also, I think, quite
Mm,
important for an artist not to be always too comfortable,
yeah.
because being good is not just for the sake of being good. It's also because there is not much choice for you.
Yeah.
You what I mean? So it's also getting good for it's the way you live. It's it's your job. So as a responsible
Hmm.
worker, on
Hmm.
top of being an artist, you have to present the best music possible to the audiences.
That's right. But you're opening up to new perspectives, which I think is really interesting. And
Mm.
that's where you're going to keep yourself alive, with these
Oh yeah.
whole new worlds.
Hmm.
From looking at some of your pictures in the jazz clubs,
Yeah.
I can see that you also like to dress the part, like you're almost period dressing at
Oh yeah.
times, which
Well,
I think is so fun.
with the quintet of the Hot Club de France, which is we are specialized in music from the 30s and 40s and
Wow.
this style. So some of the pieces we play are our own compositions, but always in that aesthetic, which we like to call pre-bop,
Uh-huh.
which I don't know if it's really exists as a term, but we like to use it. It's anything before bebop, really. And we would like to imagine a world where this music evolved without the arrival of the bebop, and where would it go? And the inspiration
Very
is a
interesting.
lot of impressionist music, like
Yeah.
Debussy and Ravel are, I mean, Gershwin borrowed a lot of things to Ravel in terms of orchestration, for
Mm-hmm.
instance. And Ravel was big on jazz.
That's
Also,
right.
we
That's
could we can hear it in his music. And I mean, Debussy survived. There's this jazz standard which became a jazz standard called My Reverie, which is basically the theme of Debussy's Reverie for piano. So that's
hmm,
something that
interesting.
jazz musicians of the time listened to and took into their own style.
So you've got the style that's hot, literally,
Mhm.
in France. When you come to America, what do you pick up on? What is your go-to?
Well, when I'm in New York, I always go to the trad scene because it's extraordinary.
Mm-hmm.
In Europe, in particular in France, we're big on what we call gypsy jazz because it's where it originated from.
Uh-huh.
And here, of course, for everything straight ahead or hard bop, uh, it's just every day you have many possibilities to listen to it. But the New York trad scene is just phenomenal. There's
Oh
some
yeah.
great musicians over there. So Mona's on Tuesdays and the Ear In on Sundays are my go-to
I
in New York.
love it.
Yeah,
There's that grit of New York that's in the
of
music
course.
and everything that is New York in this.
Yeah,
And it's fantastic. Oh
absolutely.
my gosh, Daniel, this is so exciting. I mean,
Yes.
I spent 20 years in London, and it
Hmm.
was when Stefan Grappelli and Yehudi Menuhin were doing so much together. And they were pretty much a fixture in the art scene at that
Hmm.
point. It was a very exciting time. It just opens up a whole new vision and horizon, you know?
Absolutely. Actually, Stefan's ending up in London was by chance. He first hated it. They were on tour with Django Reinhardt in 1939, and the
Yeah,
war was declared. And Django said, "Okay, I'm going back to France." So he hopped on the boat and returned immediately to France. And Stefan Grappelli said, he was a little sick. He said, I will rest a few days
yeah,
and then I'll join you." And he couldn't because the border was were closed.
closed. Yeah,
And he first hated it, and then he fell in love with London and England. He had his band there, and
yeah.
some say that that's where he actually learned to play jazz, the real jazz, with his
Interesting.
London band. And he kept coming back to London until the end.
Isn't that
Mm,
fascinating?
yeah.
Wow. Wow. Well, I'm glad that we both had that in our world.
Hmm.
And you are much better off for it. Well, I'm excited by your career, the trajectory, your past, your influences, your incredible family. I mean, I've just got to thank you for taking the time today. And
Oh,
I really do hope that you will be in more films and perhaps in straight acting roles, maybe with a violin, I mean, in the background.
the future will tell us, but I would be glad.
You
That's
gave a
oh,
powerful
yeah.
performance, and I really enjoyed it in Musiciens.
Thank you so much.
Listen, before you go, I just have a
Yeah,
couple fun things to ask.
sure.
I've got my signature questions. And the first is, if you could have dinner one night with anyone who has passed from this world, yeah, this does not have to be a famous person or dignitary, but who would it be? Who would you want to spend that evening with for dinner?
I think that This is a question. The answer will vary. And though I mean, I would have said
Of course.
Mozart at some point,
Yeah.
Shostakovich. I would have said, now I would say Stefan Grappelli, of course,
Oh,
because he was my really my biggest source of inspiration when it
yeah.
came to jazz violins. So now in 2026, I would say still it's him. And
Oh my
I
gosh.
I had the occasion to meet his partner for the last 20 years, who still lives in the apartment where they used to live together in the Pigalle. And he presented me with Stefan's first violin, a three-quarter violin that his father, not something great, but it was the first small violin. He was a kid, and his father told him, I will buy you this violin. But if I buy this violin for you, you have to practice and you have to play it. And don't just, I won't buy it for you so it stays in the closet. And he said, okay. And they bought it at the cobbler's. It was just hanging on the wall at the cobbler's.
This is extraordinary.
Yeah.
This was presented to you? I
Oh,
mean, this is,
yeah.
my God, what a gift. What a connection.
He just has it because it's I mean it was part of Stefan's memorabilia. I also saw a letter that Django Reinhardt wrote to Stefan
Oh,
while he was in the US touring with Duke Ellington, and Stefan couldn't come with them, so he was very apologetic and telling him that everybody expects you and that next time he will bring him together. Yeah.
Daniel,
So
how beautiful.
yeah.
How really beautiful. Well,
Mm,
I can imagine that the conversation would be very much alive at that dinner.
probably.
A lot to cover. Oh my
Oh yeah.
gosh.
Oh yeah.
It's interesting how you come from similar backgrounds and you where you finally ended up. It's very interesting.
Mm.
Wow. Wow. That is exciting. So, and my other signature question is what one word or phrase defines who you are to the depth of your soul?
This I had to ask my friends because I rarely define myself. I let other people do this for me. And so I asked Tatiana, uh, and she looked at me, she said, uh, cynical optimist. And I would say, yeah, I can live with this. I can live with this.
Isn't
But
that a paradox?
not really, because you can still have a little bit of light inside,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
not complete darkness. But if I want to ask myself, I would probably say I'm a dilettante. I'm a big dilettante because I'm touching a lot of things,
Mm-hmm.
um, and not too seriously. I'm not taking myself too seriously, but because I think it's the end of everything
Mm-hmm.
when we start
Mm-hmm.
considering ourselves as
Mm-hmm.
important.
Mm-hmm.
It's exactly the moment where we stop going forward and we're
And we fall.
being happy, maybe stagnating
Yeah.
for a while, but the more we're stagnating, the more chance we have to fall, as you said. But yeah, I think it's very important to remember that we are entertainers. We're
Yeah.
there to entertain other people.
Yeah.
If we can entertain ourselves along the way, that's great. But I mean, that's not the purpose. The purpose is to entertain other people, and it was like this forever.
Fantastic. This is wonderful. It's great chatting with you.
That's great chatting with you,
It was
Pamela.
great chatting with you on in email too. Yeah, you were
Yeah,
very generous. You were so beautifully open and generous about the film and the
yeah.
genesis of your part and I really appreciate that because not every artist is. So, cynical optimist,
Cynical optimist and
Daniel
dilettante.
Garlitsky, and dilettante. I love that. Well, I think you've got it all summed up there. And you'll go forward in all your performances on this tour and be absolutely fabulous because of those elements. But
Thank
thank
you.
you for
Thank you very
sharing that with
much.
us. That's amazing. That's
Mm.
amazing. You seem to be a prince amongst men, and you probably
I,
won't
I'll
agree
say I
with
could
me.
qualify myself as a prince among the non-princely. That's more characteristic
There we
of
go.
me.
I like that. I like that kind of honesty. Well, good luck on the tour.
Thank you very much.
and all the best for a riveting career. I mean, riveting.
Thank you, Pamela.
And have a hell of a good time in America. And before you go back and you go to the jazz clubs and you do your thing and keep acting, and hopefully we'll talk again.
Yes, it was a pleasure, Pamela. Thank you very much.
How can people find more out about you? Is there any site that they can go to?
Oh, there's my website, which is just garlitsky.com.
Mm-hmm.
And there's my social media. I have Instagram and Facebook where I post uh, enough to keep people entertained.
Okay, well, I like that. I like that. Well, Toi Toi for everything, thank you again. And I've got to invite all my listeners to go to garlitsky.com. And you can find this interview on YouTube, on Spotify, on Apple Podcasts, and of course on WGCH Talk Radio, Greenwich, Connecticut, where we keep the arts alive with Center Stage with Pamela Kuhn. Daniel Garlitsky, thank you again, and take care.
Thank you.
To all my listeners, please stay safe out there. This is Pamela Kuhn, and the curtain is now down on Center Stage.